He represents the state of California. He's incredibly smart. He went to Stanford and Georgetown. So when Ted Lieu speaks, you're really seeing the Democratic Party's brain trust on display. And with that in mind, we wanted to bring you one of his recent pronouncements. This is a tweet, and it's in response to one of his colleagues, the Congressman Scott Perry. Now, Perry was making an argument we have often made because it's true, and that is that Democrats are using mass immigration to transform the country, to change who votes so they can control who wins. Ted Lieu was very annoyed that Scott Perry said this, and so he sent the following tweet, and he was clearly enraged as he did. Quote, "Dear Scott Perry, native-born Americans like you are no more American and no less American than an immigrant like me." Good point. We agree with that. And then he said this, "And with every passing year, there will be more people who look like me in the United States. You can't stop it. So take your racist replacement theory and shove it. In other words, you're being replaced and there's nothing you can do about it. So shut up." Luckily, with people like Ted Lieu in charge, they're not going to get a lot done. Guy's a moron.
Okay, the bit at the end was also very weird. That delivery was weird, but that laugh, like imagine if you were on an elevator with someone and they laughed like that. I would be like hitting buttons. I don't care if I have to crawl out. That was bizarre.
Yeah, it's like a demented Joker cackle. I feel like he's about, like this is his like villain origin story where he becomes the ultimate form of himself, like a super villain, right? Like that cackle, that is terrifying.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I don't know if there was something about you, personality or a weird lack of emotional intelligence that you would occasionally, with no appropriate context, just let out a witchy cackle like that. Wouldn't you do it like more? Like he just started doing it 2 days ago, then he did it yesterday. So we're sort of forced to compare it to what we know of him normally, which is his like base emotional state is that's it, like no emotion, let alone some bizarre like burst of emotion like that.
But Joe Biden, all Joe Biden can talk about is your skin color. Patronizing? That doesn't even begin to describe what this is. This is exactly why decent Americans hated segregation. It dehumanized people. Now, Biden claims that his race counting is essential so that the court and the rest of his administration, quote, looks like America. Of all the lies that Joe Biden tells, this could be the easiest to check. We have the latest census numbers, and we can promise you with dead certainty that Joe Biden's nominees look nothing like America, not even close. People are going to start to wonder about their, quote, representation. As long as we're divvying up the spoils like carrot cake, where's my slice? So Biden will nominate a black woman. Great. She'll represent about 7% of the population. But where's Biden's Pacific Islander nominee? Mazie Hirono is probably writing an outraged letter about that right now. No doubt she is. And why isn't there an American Indian on the court, or a genderqueer, or someone from the chronic fatigue syndrome community, or a justice with cognitive disabilities? Why isn't there an Afghan refugee under consideration? You can laugh, but suddenly these are entirely fair questions. And by the way, Joe Biden, you claim that trans lives matter? Really? Do you really mean that? Then prove it. What kind of woman is this anyway you plan to nominate? What are her pronouns? You can see where this is going. It always goes there. Identity politics always ends with tribal warfare. It's funny the Biden people can't see that. Maybe they can see it and don't care, or maybe it's the entire point of the exercise. Whatever the explanation, the White House has no choice at this point to make good on Joe Biden's promise.
Okay, so yes, maybe it's the entire point of the exercise. Maybe it's the entire point of the monologue, actually. To denounce tribal warfare while trying to get your white audience to be horrified at the prospect of anyone other than them holding any position of power. That is the fundamental magic trick that he's capable of doing. He's not a particularly talented or impressive person in most areas, but he is able to do that. He's able to hoodwink his own audience. And so, yes, you can laugh, he says, about the prospect of any of these sorts of groups having representation, and his audience probably will. It's horrific to do so, but they will. And so unless you can simultaneously give every single group representation inside of any individual choice, there is no point in having even as an aspirational goal that our judiciary or any other aspect of our government, economy, society, all that should be representative. It's all a joke to him, even though the goal for him is white male conservatives having these spots. They'll occasionally allow a white female conservative as long as she upholds patriarchy, white supremacy, all of that.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. It tells you a lot about the priorities of our ruling class that the rest of us are getting yet another lecture about January 6th tonight from our moral inferiors, no less. An outbreak of mob violence, a forgettably minor outbreak by recent standards that took place more than a year and a half ago, but they've never stopped talking about it.
So we know definitely that every major network showed the entire prime time hearing last night, except Fox News. Instead, the propaganda mill, it decided to feature Tucker Carlson, throwing a tantrum? So, yeah, awesome. This per the Washington Post. Carlson and his producers plastered hysterical chyrons across the screen for their millions of viewers to see. January 6th committee fuels false narratives as sham investigation drags on. Leaders will spend 90 minutes giving moral lecture. Our leaders are focusing on January 6th while ignoring the real threats. Absolutely, yeah, he had to definitely go there.
Amazingly, if you go back to those screenshots from the beginning, they tried to make it look as boring as possible on Fox News. So graphic 2, you'll see it looks like Thompson and Cheney are just kind of looking off into nothingness, while Tucker Carlson is talking about how much nothingness is going on. During that exact moment when I took that screenshot, Cheney and Thompson are looking at monitors of previously unseen carnage at the Capitol building. They are reverently looking off like, I can't believe this is happening. And everyone else watching any other TV network is watching people threaten to kill the vice president, break windows and say that they are on a tirade to end democracy in America. That's what they're looking at.